Bad endings in video games can serve one of two purposes. It can either serve as a stinger to get the player to play the game again, or it can make the player rethink or regret the actions they've taken. Persona games have always been linear in terms of story and game structure, and yet bad endings seem to be a trend throughout these games, and I guess I just felt like talking about them for some reason. I thought it would be a fun, short topic since I'm still a little exhausted from my last big video. Only for it to end up my second worst performing video in over 8 months. Damn guys, guess it's over. We had a good run. Go watch, like, and comment by the way. I'll be going through each of the main numbered Persona titles as the spin-offs don't really have bad endings to my knowledge. I'll give the rundown of each bad ending, the possible implications it has, and how much of an impression it left on me personally. Obviously, there will be spoilers for the entire Persona series throughout this video. I strongly suggest you play the games for yourself before proceeding any further. The way you get the bad ending in Persona 1 is based on certain choices you make throughout the story, specifically when the player is asked what their purpose in life is. If the player answers that they don't know, this will set them on the path to the bad ending. If you don't have the conviction to find your own purpose in life, one of Maki Sonomura's shadows, Mai, will force you into a boss fight. The fight itself isn't anything remarkable, but it's obvious afterwards that you did something wrong. After defeating Kandori, it's revealed that the Maki you've been with the entire game was an idealized version of herself, created for the idealized version of the town inside Maki's mind. The real Maki's mind somehow, with no real concrete reason, became in sync with Kandori's Deva system, giving her the power to create the ideal world that you spend a large portion of the game in. As stated earlier, Mai is one of Maki's shadows. Mai's role was to create Maki's ideal world. The other shadow, Aki, is Maki's malevolent side, who sides with Kandori for most of the game. If the player made the incorrect choice, Mai will force both Aki and the ideal Maki into the real Maki's mind. Maki calls out for the protagonist before disappearing. Upon seeing this, Mai declares that she will make a counterpart of him in her world, implying Maki's feelings for him. The mirror leading back to the other world shatters, leaving no way back. But since Kandori is defeated, the town of Mikagecho returns to normal. The game ends on a down note, as the gang was never able to find their true selves. The game also never states what happened to the real Maki after these events. The implication seems to be that she remains hospitalized, possibly until death. This ending is not great. It doesn't leave much of an impression on me, as it doesn't really do anything to make the player regret their decision. In fact, it doesn't even really mention where the player went wrong. This is a bad ending in both the sense that it's a bad outcome, and it's not a very meaningful or impactful conclusion to anything you just went through. This is coming from someone who likes Persona 1. But wait, there's more than just one bad ending. Persona 1 is the only Persona game to have an alternate story route, the Snow Queen scenario. I'm not gonna painstakingly explain the steps to get there or what it's about. All you need to know is that in this scenario, you have to conquer 3 towers and collect magic mirror shards to free your teacher, Ms. Sayako, from the curse of the Snow Queen's mask. Many of the shards are missable, however. In order to save Ms. Sayako, you need to have at least 8 mirror shards. You do not need all 12. Completing the mirror will simply reward you with the Spiegel Shield, a piece of equipment for the protagonist. If the player fails to obtain at least 8 mirror shards, they will fight the possessed Ms. Sayako, as opposed to the boss you'd get from having enough shards. After defeating her, the Night Queen, Nyx, is freed from the mask that bound her, and she goes off to bring down eternal night upon the earth. As everyone within the school is being frozen, the spirit of Sayako and the spirit of the girl possessing the mask use the last of their power to send the group out of the school. You are sent to the exit behind the school to witness your acquaintances and the whole town have been frozen. The reality sinks in that despite your efforts, you failed. The world is now shrouded in eternal night, all in the name of eternal beauty. This ending is a much better bad ending in my opinion. It actually feels like you messed up and it ended with grave consequences. That last line, all in the name of eternal beauty, really ties it all back to one of the running themes throughout this path of the story. One of the Tower Keepers was obsessed with maintaining her beauty forever, and was willing to embrace death for it. Another one wanted to remain in her dreamland forever to avoid the unfair adversities of life. This isn't the only time you'll see Nex bring doom upon the earth, but that's a story for another game. Neither of the Persona 2 games really have bad endings per se. In the case of Innocent Sin, there's not much you can do to make the ending worse, since the world kind of ends. However, there is a choice you make that will determine the fate of Yukino. If you leave Yukino alone to grieve the death of Shunsuke, you will have to fight Yukino's shadow yourself. Afterwards, Yukino's shadow will jump off a ledge, along with Anna. The death of Yukino's shadow basically breaks the mind of the real Yukino, as she did not face herself. Yukino is essentially a vegetable now, but her last wish is to pass on her persona summoning ability to Jun as her replacement. Jun replaces Yukino whether she faces herself or not, but I actually think this outcome justifies it a lot more. It also makes the moment more impactful than her just giving up her persona for no real reason. Either way, the gang transmigrates to the new timeline at the end. I'm not sure if that includes Yukino, or if the one from the original timeline will remain in her vegetative state forever. Who knows? Eternal Punishment is the same deal. There's no bad ending, however, a few choices you make in the final dungeon will determine whether or not the held captive Lisa and Eikichi will regain their memories of the former timeline from Innocent Sin. If the player makes the wrong decisions, not only will the two remember, but the characters in your party will falter a bit in their character development. They all come to their personal realizations either way, so for them, it won't mean much. The stinger at the end is that during the ending, Lisa and Eikichi will visit the shrine weeping over their Tatsuya returning to the other side. The only one spared from that memory is Jun, but even a part of him feels sad in a way he can't explain. Other than that, the ending is the same either way. However, Nyarlathotep did state that if the others remembered, the same catastrophe could happen again. It's left hanging in the air though, so maybe Tatsuya's decision to go back was enough, as he was the main paradox causing disruption. Persona 3 only has one bad ending. It's built up to very well, and it might even be a contender for my favorite bad ending. But we all know how unbelievably biased I am. This is also where the endings start to get a little more elaborate, so I'll need to give a little more context before actually getting into the ending. So throughout the game, you're convinced that destroying the 12 Arcana Shadows will end the Dark Hour, but after doing the deed, you find out that your goal the entire game was a lie. Then you find out that not only was it a lie, but you have successfully doomed the world. You have the option to either wait for Doomsday to come, fight an unwinnable battle and die a gruesome death, or you can kill your friend, who is the Appriser, which will delay the Day of Reckoning and you will forget all your memories of the Dark Hour. You will return to being a normal student. The fall will happen instantaneously and you won't even notice it. The most painless death you could possibly ask for. If you accept Ryoji's offer and kill him, your memories will fade away quickly and the rest of the school year will pass. The game jumps forward to March, with you, Junpei, and Yukari arriving at school like always. In the distance you notice Aigus watching you, but the bond between you and your former comrades is all but forgotten. Only the main trio seem to have maintained a close friendship despite the memory wipe. It's very obvious that Aigus retained her memory. On graduation day, Mitsuru gives her speech and pauses upon misremembering the cause of her father's death. You can tell that she feels something about that statement was off. She follows up with how she got back on her feet with all the support she received during that time, implying that deep down in her heart she may still remember what her friends did for her, or at least the feeling, even if she doesn't remember their time together. An interesting detail about this scene is that Junpei seems to imply he knows about a certain someone the protagonist is dating. When Yukari interjects, Junpei taunts her, implying she should know exactly what he means. I don't know if you have to max out Yukari's social link to get this line, but I already had it maxed out when I got this ending, so I'll assume that's the case. Not actually important to the ending, I just thought that was a cute detail. Anyway, the main trio starts discussing how life as a student is hard enough already. Thinking about the future is too flustering, and that sometimes it's better to just not ponder on it. The only thing that matters is the present. Then they decide to go out for karaoke, or karaoke for the gaijins in chat. The ending credits are the same as the good endings, excluding the last couple FMV cutscenes from January. After the credits roll, the graduate students are shown leaving the school, and the main trio is shown enjoying their time in the present. It's not made blatantly clear when the fall happened, but it's entirely possible that the world could have ended on the final frame of that scene. Out of context, this ending doesn't seem like a bad outcome. It's only in remembering everything you've experienced over the course of Persona 3 that this ending becomes kind of painful to watch. You've witnessed the characters grow as people, ready to take on whatever the future has in store for them, no matter how difficult, and here you see them regress to a living in the now mindset. There's nothing inherently wrong with that type of mindset. Ryoji even says to the player that looking forward to the future is a great way to live, but that doesn't mean other ways of living are wrong. Nobody in this ending does anything horribly offensive, it just hurts to see everyone's mindset inverse like this. But ultimately, only you should have the right to decide your own future, and what you do to find a sense of fulfillment in life. If the result in life either way will always be death, then is there really anything wrong with that? The game doesn't judge you for it. The only truly bad thing about this ending is that you, the player, chose to go against everyone's unanimous wish to fight Nyx, and erased their memories without their consent. And I think that's what truly kills me when I see this ending. Persona 4 introduces deadlines into the series, and by failing to finish a dungeon before a deadline, you get a short scene basically saying that the person you failed to rescue has died. Your protagonist blacks out and you are transported to the Velvet Room. Igor will offer to take you back a week before the deadline, so you have enough time to prepare and complete the dungeon. There are slightly different variations for each deadline, but they're mostly the same. Just a different character calling you to break the news each time. There's one variant of this ending that stands out among the rest. If you fail to catch Adachi, the true culprit, by the deadline, the world inside the TV will merge with the real world, and shadows will cross over to your side. Naoto will call you and she dies over the phone. It's kind of disturbing, but also kind of funny because I didn't level her at all after she joined the party, so that might have been my fault. Well, it's the player's fault either way because you missed the deadline. Never mind. The first real bad ending option happens after you defeat Kunino Sugiri. If you choose to take revenge on Namatame after Nanako's death, Chie points out you're doing the same thing he did to all the victims he kidnapped. You'd be no better than him. Yukiko will ask to confirm if this is really what you want to do. If you say yes, the entire group will stay to see it through. They return to a dead Nanako's room and realize Teddy is missing. A note is left by Teddy saying he's returned to his own world. Time will skip to March as the protagonist is returning home. Dojima will ask the player that if no one's willing to step up to evil, if the burden falls on the closest person to punish them. You leave a fog-covered Inaba with no real answers to any of the big questions. There's technically several versions of this ending. If you refuse to push Namatame in but fail to convince your friends to keep pursuing the truth, you will return to Nanako's room to find out she's resuscitated, with Teddy still missing. However, she won't be able to leave the hospital before the protagonist returns home. The case with Namatame is still uncertain due to a lack of evidence and information, and Dojima says there's not much else that can be done. Namatame's sentence likely won't be a harsh one. Here, Dojima will ask you if you are satisfied with the outcome of your time here. The final FMV scene will be exactly the same as the revenge variant of this ending. The same thing more or less happens when you successfully convince your friends to pursue the truth, but you fail to guess the culprit correctly 3 times. Dojima will start to question himself about Namatame and whether he was actually the one who killed the first 2 victims. These endings are bad. I mean, of course they are, they're bad endings. What I mean is, they don't particularly hit that hard. Sure, the tension around the choice of whether to kill Namatame or not was very well done. There doesn't seem like there's enough backlash or consequence for your decision though. You literally get away with killing a guy and it's treated like nothing. The give up and failure variants of this ending are even worse, but at least it's kind of befitting. You chose to stand idly by, so you didn't really deserve any sort of sense of payoff. Or you were just really bad at guessing. The truth is now lost within the fog of uncertainty. The last bad ending you can get was added in Persona 4 Golden. In this ending, you come to the conclusion that Adachi is in fact the true culprit. However, you are reminded that you've always considered Adachi a friend, and are given the option to hide the truth from your friends and protect them. If you do, you'll be given the option to visit Adachi one last time before leaving Inaba. You must do this to get the new ending. Upon visiting Adachi, you tell him you know that he killed the first 2 victims. He denies it at first, but if the player says they're on his side, things start to get really sinister. He decides to test your loyalty to him. The warning letter that was sent to your house is the only piece of evidence that could find the real killer of the murder case. If you're positive that Adachi's the culprit, and that you want to protect him, then you'll burn the evidence. Only someone truly dedicated to protecting him would do that. If you go through with it, you've essentially trapped yourself. Adachi now has a grasp on you forever. You're his partner in crime now. You are given Adachi's number and the Jester social link will reach max rank. Adachi's number is a social link item that will carry over to your New Game Plus playthrough, to remind the player of their decision to betray everyone and everything they did the past year. The ending plays out mostly the same as if you fail to find the culprit, until you get on the train. This ending is far better than the original bad endings. Adachi is extremely manipulative and essentially blackmails you into keeping his secret forever. The final part of the scene ends with the protagonist gripping his phone in regret, angry at himself, or rather, at your decision. Just like Persona 4, Persona 5 has deadline endings. The first 2 for stealing Kamoshida and Madarame's hearts are basically the same. Kanashiro's deadline ending is kinda dark though. It's implied Kanashiro's goons kidnapped Makoto and drugged her. Even Sojiro is like, yo, what the f? Failing to finish Futaba's palace in time will result in the fake medjed leaking your information, and the authorities will take you in on suspicion of being a phantom thief. This time, they take Sojiro in too. If you fail to finish Sai's palace on time, you will fail to recollect the rest of your memory, and Sai will leave. The killer, not revealed to be Akechi yet, will arrive and kill Joker. The last noteworthy deadline ending is if you do not reach the end of Maruki's palace by the day of the decision with him. Maruki will appear in your dreams, coming to the conclusion that forcing you to decide has only caused you more pain than if he had just left you all in his ideal world. He decides that the best outcome for you is eternal sleep. The protagonist briefly wakes up, unaware of how much time has passed, but he is too sleepy to get back up. He returns to sleep, and the camera pans out to a cobweb-filled room. They get a little more creative with these deadline endings, but at the end of the day, they're still not extraordinarily remarkable, aside from Maruki's deadline ending. The first real bad ending is the one where you finish recalling your heists and return to the present in the interrogation room. If you choose to sell out your friends, Sai will leave, promising that using the information he's given her, she will try to lighten Joker's sentence. This will mean nothing though, as Joker will be helpless to stop Akechi from killing him, and his death will be presumed a suicide. much like the Deadline variant of this ending, but only Eikichi will be revealed as the crook. Joker wakes up in the Velvet Room with the twins reprimanding him. Igor declares that Joker's soul will remain in his prison for the rest of his life. But he's already dead. Did his body just transmigrate to the Velvet Room? Or does he mean the rest of eternity? Or does his soul have a lifespan? I don't know. I'll be honest, I really don't have an opinion on this ending. I just feel like, damn, sucks that happened, I guess. The next bad ending happens after Caroline and Justine fuse back into Lavenza, and the fake Igor reveals himself to be the god of control, Yaldabaoth. He offers to restore the world to the state it was in before. For context, it's kinda merging with the cognitive world right now. The world will avoid ruin, and the Phantom Thieves will be praised again. Again, context. You guys are at rock bottom right now, even after exposing Shido. If you accept, Lavenza expresses her shock and disappointment, and Yaldabaoth remarks that you are a child of man, who gave in to your desires. In the Reset world, many news reports on the Phantom Thieves exposing horrible crimes are being aired. The police have also had their hearts changed, and are no longer after the Phantom Thieves. The civilians have seemingly accepted the Phantom Thieves as their new authority of justice. The world is safe, but no one is able to think for themselves, and the Phantom Thieves essentially have a hold on their trust now. From the beginning of the game, you were forced into a battle that you never asked for. You struggled your way through many unfair challenges, and now, for once it feels as though you're in control. You've taken revenge on society, but at the cost of everyone else's freedom. It's the ideal world for you, and you alone. A solid bad ending, and a good antithesis to the core message of the game. Finally, we reach Maruki's deal. There are two ways to trigger this ending. Maruki will offer you once inside his palace, after the twist with Sumire is revealed, and again once you reach the end of Maruki's palace. You will be offered to accept Maruki's alternate reality, one where everyone will be happy and without pain or suffering. At this point, you've already received a sample of it. You've seen how much happier it can make people, but at the same time, this is based on what one man decides what's best for you. Once again, you'd be living in a world where no one would truly be free. But to sway Joker even further, he raises the point that Eikichi is only here because Joker wished for it. Although the fate of Eikichi after Shido's palace is unknown, there's a great chance that returning the world to its original state would come at the cost of Akechi's life. Eikichi would rather be dead than live under Maruki's thumb. If you choose to accept Maruki's reality, Eikichi will be disappointed in you. But of course, once reality shifts, everyone including Eikichi are living their ideal lives. Sojiro offers to let you keep living with him, and you're able to enjoy life with your friends forever. Maruki, in normal civilian form, takes a group photo for them during Makoto and Haru's graduation. While everyone else has forgotten him, Joker may or may not vaguely still recognize him as he leaves. As the credits roll, you are actually shown shots of everyone enjoying their new reality. Like Persona 3's bad ending, this is a false happy ending. Sure, everyone's happy, but it entirely goes against the point of the game's story. Persona 5 is about a lot of things, but among those things is freedom. No one is truly free in this reality, just strung along by the way Maruki sets things. A world without pain and suffering is a world with no personal growth or development, but at the same time, growing only serves to prepare us for more pain and suffering. Can you really blame someone for accepting this reality? I'd be lying to myself if I said I couldn't be in a better place right now. But we live in a world that can't be altered like that. So all we can do is be ready to take on the world. Persona has always been a series with incredible attention to detail, and that even goes all the way down to the endings that you're not supposed to get. They're not all made equally, but they consistently convey the message antithetical to the game's core values. I'll be honest, there is no real point that I wanted to get across in this video. I just started thinking about the bad endings in Persona for some reason and wanted to give my thoughts on them. But this is the part of the video where I'm obligated to give some sort of grandeur conclusion to wrap up this topic. Blah blah blah, Jungian psychology, blah blah, don't run away from your problems, blah blah, I'm outta here. Can you tell the Persona 4 video killed me?